Now why I've come back and stopped here, this could be a good spot to show the bags. So we've hit the fire trail that we'll be doing the little drive in. So a further traction aid, if needed, is we've got a rear locker, factory rear locker in there. No scrubbing, no touching. The GVM, which is not bad, you've got a lot of payload there. This motor goes way better than the 79. So probably the least favorite thing on the truck for me is no second stick here. So you can see here that the original bump stop at the top and then the bag at the bottom. So they've come apart. There really is nothing to do for the driver except enjoy the vehicle. Now you can see here how badly that has faded. I'm hoping here that the sidewalls actually keep me out of those ruts. So apart from, you know, singing me an alarm, it flashes. That was a pretty impressive climb. The ever popular Toyota Fortuner. Not only is it very popular amongst our subscribers and viewers that continually ask to see this vehicle off-road, but it's become a very popular mid-size SUV with consumers. And I mean, look at that, it's 100 kilometers an hour at just on 1500 RPM. The 6-speed auto gearbox is beautiful at top end. But then when you need it, a slight push of the accelerator, and it does have a lot of poke for overtaking. And I mean, there's no wind hitting the window and sound of the motor. It's a well insulated vehicle. The RPMs sit at beautiful ranges. It's just an absolute pleasure to drive. We're 4 years into owning this vehicle. So we'll juice up here today and we'll take it on the dirt. BP Ultimate has been our choice of fuel for a couple of years now. We'll be doing a little bit of low range work, high range work, and quite a bit of highway work. We're on a Maxxis MT tyre. You wouldn't know you're on a dirt road. This TJM suspension kit we put in 4 years ago now. It feels beautiful, whether it be on the tar or on the dirt. Now we're still at full tyre pressure and it's still so comfortable. I mean, in the 79, a little bit of a different vehicle, but I would have stopped here knowing we've got a fair bit of dirt driving to do, and I would have aired down for the comfort. So time to put it in high range. Now, we don't have a second stick in this vehicle, but we do have a dial that has H4 there. And then we have an indicator there, the little green car, to tell us that it's engaged. You see a lot more Fortuners on the road these days, but back in 2018, I remember buying it and people saying, oh, what's that model? What's that model? There were a lot more Prados back then. For us back then, the decision on buying the Fortuner over the Prado, now I feel that value for money, the Fortuner wins over the Prado. You have to spend a lot more money and you get the same exact motor. But also too, the reminder of the 4Runner that I grew up with. I believe this is the next closest thing in Australia to the 4Runner. So we've hit the fire trail that we'll be doing the little drive in. Now what we're going to do before we put it in a low range, we're going to air these Maxxis tyres down. So these are a 265 70/17. Now they're on a 17 by 8.5 inch fuel vector rim. It's a +7. We're quite legal within the guard. Only 10.5 inches wide. So on the 8.5 inch wide rim, the maximum I'll let these down to today is around the 18. Also got the airbags down around the 9 PSI. We've put the spare tyre in the boot today so that we had some room to do a bit of filming. Now what we want to see what happens with a bit of flex in the coil. So this camera is going to show the coils and the airbags inside the coils. So we've been in high range for this little bit. Now we're going to go into low range. So there's a dial. So now the dial goes from H4 to L4. So we're going to turn that dial. Now what's going to happen is, because we're in park, we've got the 4 low indicator on, but it's beeping. So if we go into drive, it doesn't engage. Now what we need to do, need to go back into neutral, go back into high range, and then come down into low. Now I just heard a click in the transfer case. We've got traction control, stability control light off, and we've got the 4 low indicator on, not flashing, no alarm going. All your choices regarding to high and low range must be done in neutral for the car, for the computer to register. So we'll put it into drive and we've got low range. So we haven't put it in any predicament where it's going to get panel damage, because I don't want to go home and tell Shell that we need to go see the panel beater again. So we've kept a bit of a test quite easy. Couple of little obstacles where we have used the rear locker, but it's a capable truck. The factory crawl ratio on these bigger tyres, it's amazing with the auto. I think it might even feel lower than the 79 on the 35s. It's a lower transfer case. I may have mentioned in an earlier video where the Hilux are a 2.28. That's the early model Hilux cases. And these are 258. Now there is a pretty loud whine, I would call it, when the vehicle gets up into 3rd and 4th in low range. It's a gear whine. I guess once you start to hear that whine, the gear whine, you probably know you got to stop and go back into high range, because you're in quite a tall gear of low range when it's doing that. The kids would love this, bit of a berm. Speaking of kids and berms, let's have a look at Nicholas's first go on his YZ65. Well done, Nicholas. And have a look here at Amelia on the big seesaw on her Husky TC65. Come, Millie. This is speed. Take it. Good girl. So a further traction aid, if needed, is we've got a rear locker, factory rear locker in this. So we push that button, and then what comes up on the screen is the locker indicator telling us that the rear locker's in. So we have no ABS, we have no stability control, and we have no traction control. But what we do have is the ability to climb now with that rear locker engaged. Now, while this wasn't a very difficult test, it's not difficult terrain, but the thing is, this vehicle, not having a tray, it's a full-bodied wagon, so anything beyond that rear door will get damaged. We didn't take it into any tight places where we could potentially get scratches. It's not what this vehicle was bought and used for. But the little test we did do just shows you glimpses of what it's capable of. It's a very capable car. Now, why I've come back and stopped here, this could be a good spot to show the bags. So you can see here that the original bump stop at the top and then the bag at the bottom. So they've come apart. They're fully compressed. It just acts like a bump stop, like a bigger bump stop. Now there's not enough air in that bag to be worrying that wheel and stopping it from traveling up. You can see the shock length there. There's plenty of up, and we've still got a little bit of down. So it's the perfect length shock on this vehicle, the TJM1. I'm surprised we haven't seen any of these coil rear ends under a Hilux, a new model Hilux. You know, like in the early days, people used to put the V6 4Runner coiled back end into an LM106, for an example. In high range, where you might need some momentum with some traction on sand or in a big bog hole, you cannot use your rear locker. So it'll flash and it'll buzz alarms and then it'll turn itself off. Now this might be an example of an obstacle that I may have chosen to use high range, but use the locker in the rear as well. I don't know how deep this is, I don't know how much momentum. It's an auto, so it's going to do its gear change as it wants. Thanks Shell for trusting me with your car and letting me do this little test. It was heaps of fun. I love it. You know what, that was a pretty impressive climb. It's a very impressive car off-road. The Maxxis tyres help a lot, but it's got good gearing. The auto just makes it so effortless. So this is where we were stuck earlier. That's where there's no front locker. Now I used the rear locker for that. And rightly so, it's deservedly to have used the rear locker there. And just like the 79, when you disengage it, you do get a click. It's funny, you know, there's no clear instruction on how to shift between the high and low. You do it wrong and you hear noises like this. Now all that was me putting it in to low range from high range, I don't know, just like I would have each any other time. The actuator just won't accept it. So probably the least favorite thing on the truck for me is no second stick here. Let's have a look at some of my favorite things. Probably my most favorite mod that we've put on the vehicle, and that is this Rhino bull bar. So Shell wanted something that doesn't stand out and look like an ARB bar with hoops. So this Rhino bar, it's winch compatible. It's a very sleek looking bar. We don't have a winch in it yet, and you know what? Doing trips like this, it could be insurance, you never know. But it's got a bash plate at the front. I love it. It's color coded. It doesn't have brush bars or side protection, but for what it is, it's one of my favorite mods that we've put on it. Now with this winch bar, the approach angle has changed considerably. You can see here how it tapers up, give maximum height at that front wheel. You're exposing that front wheel to the obstacle that you're looking to climb. It just feels like such a good wheelbase to wheel with. 9-foot wheelbase, which is 108 inches. It's got a really good wheelbase for off-roading. The coil suspension, it's soft. When you're off-road, it doesn't make noises in the rough stuff. The offset wheel, the +7 offset wheel with the 10.5-inch wide Maxxis shoe, that gives it width. Now the width with that wheelbase, it just feels so good. I love the TJM suspension. The airbags, I love the airbags from Polyair. Obviously the bigger shoe, and it's quite good ground clearance too. Even down to that cross member there for the gearbox, there's a lot of ground clearance under that, from the front bash plate to that cross member to your diff at the back. We've got ground clearance, 225 millimeters, 9 inches is a lot of it. So the unladen weight on these is 2.12. The GVM, which is not bad, you've got a lot of payload there, that's 2750. And then your gross combined mass, 5.545. I love the interior, I love the seating position, I love the steering wheel. I love the head unit with this map system it's got, and you don't even have to spend any more money like a 79. It's got an awesome reverse camera. The gearing is beautiful. Now it's not that I hate the next few things that I'm going to talk about, but these genuine Toyota side steps, I feel that they could be a little bit higher. There's a decent gap there. A little bit higher side step equals more ground clearance. And I also feel that they should have gone a little bit further. There's the back of the door there. Now I don't know why they've stopped prematurely. Now this big rear plastic bumper bar, I'm not sure if there's any aftermarket people that do a rear bar, but as you can see, it's a one-piece plastic up to about there. But I do worry about that every time I wheel this car, which isn't that often, and every time I go to drop off something. The departure angle is quite good though, but you still are vulnerable there. So these genuine weather shields, while they're good for leaving the window down a little bit at night for condensation when you're out, it doesn't give you much headroom here. So when you're off-road, I like to see where that front wheel is, so you're continuously hitting your head on that. The old days with the 60s and all the ones that we had, they used to come out a long way first and then drop. So again, they're needed. It's just not enough headroom for me. Another maybe one I would have not done at the time, but we chose a Toyota Snorkel. Now you can see here how badly that has faded. Under the bonnet we're stock. I haven't had to do anything to this motor. This motor goes way better than the 79. When you're talking about towing the 3 ton, the 79's up there in points in front of it, but you know what? This is a stock motor, but essentials under the bonnet, we've got the ARB air compressor, and we've got the catch can there. So they're my essentials under the bonnet. Other than that, apart from servicing, no tools have been put on this motor. So on a little run like this, I've got my tools in the back. I just want to make a point. Make sure, with all the electronics in these modern day cars, have yourself a scan tool. So it's helped me out in the past, and it's helped other people with us out in the past. Its ability not to break traction. You can see the little orange light flashing. We're all day, every day. A normal car would be slipping and sliding there. Wheel air up now, and I'll tell you, I really like the new ARB inflator with the reader on it. It's digital and it's got big numbers. Next episode, we'll get the leaf springs out of the back of the LM106 and do some testing there. And as always, thanks for watching.